This is State Representative Tracy Estes, representing House District 17, which includes all of Marion and portions of Lamar and Winston counties. Please allow me to take this opportunity to wish you and your family a blessed and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I would encourage each of us at this time to stop and reflect on the blessings we've received from the good Lord over the last year. Even though we've had some difficult times coming through the COVID pandemic and inflation is on the rise, we're seeing things in this country that are naturally concerning to all of us. We need to step back as Americans and always be grateful of how blessed we are and how good the Lord continues to be to us. So in the coming days, please take a few moments to reflect on these things as we set aside some time to honor the Savior's birth and welcome in a new year in 2022.
State Bank and Trust has been invested in Winfield and Marion County for more than a century, and today we remain deeply committed to meeting the needs of local families and businesses with excellent financial products and friendly down-home service.
But more than that, we're dedicated to supporting the growth, success, and well-being of our community as a whole. Because when it comes right down to it, there's nothing more important than community.
And just like our outstanding city officials, police, and fire departments, you can count on State Bank and Trust to help make Winfield and Marion County a great place to live for everyone who calls this area home.
Have a seasonal.
Yeah.
Would allow the seasonal.
No, it wouldn't be a day past.
It starts on the 20th, and next month's going to be the 21st.
Yeah.
That'd be the earliest they could buy it after we
Approve it. They got seasonal.
No, but under the current ordinance, they can sell on the 20th.
Yeah, seasonal.
So they could go ahead and start sales on the 20th, even though the next ordinance doesn't take effect until they could start sales on the 20th under the current ordinance.
Right.
So they wouldn't miss any time. Yeah, they wouldn't miss any time.
That's what I would get to.
They'd still be able to start selling on the 20th, and then what we're going to do is,
Make this
when we adopt this ordinance, we're
January
going
31st.
Yeah. They just don't have to quit selling on the 31st. If they're going to be a year-round seller, they don't have to quit selling on the 31st. Because you're already going to be able to start under this ordinance on the 20th.
As long as they buy the permit.
As long as they buy the permit and do the year-round stuff between then and the 31st of January, or the ending period in January, as long as they buy their yearly permit before then,
right.
That seasonal sale period ends, then they'll be able to just stay open year-round.
Right.
So that
Cures that what I was getting.
yes,
right.
I think it does.
Yeah, we actually already done. So we're good there, right, Todd?
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is electronic sign quotes. We were talking about this sign out here because of the Alabama Fire grant that we was able to secure from Alabama Fire for us, pay it toward that sign, which is nice. We just got MIA on it. We've got one quote here to replace the whole sign out here, 40-inch high, 7 foot, 6 inches length, 5 inches deep, 16mm digital display. I'll pass this. You got another one?
I just had one come in.
Just have one come in.
Digital sign.
Got 2 quotes here.
That's without installation. It's a little easier with.
Yeah, that figure that a lot of figures the installation price.
Yeah, they're estimating.
One we got 2 prices.
Each side.
So per side.
Yeah. 13 per side, 27 for the full side.
Okay, so we're going to do this one side.
Some sides like that on the wall. Yeah, some right on the wall.
That's here per side too. This one.
That's it for both. This company makes signs. These five like this.
There's another one underneath
Yeah,
that.
there's another. There's the one from Avid, and then one from Mid South.
He's got a couple of prices on replacing the whole sign, which we talked about this last council meeting, because to repair this one's going to be as much as a new one because of the three quotes here to replace the sign completely. Got how many bulbs they said we have out on this one. I mean, it's
I don't remember the
a
total.
big number, anyways, a big number of them. Got one of the mid-size signs and, out there located at corporate offices in Columbus, Mississippi. Got offices in Sheffield and Memphis. It's a labor and material, furnished and installed. You watch for 41 by 7.3, 16 millimeter full color LED message center. $27,382. That's for both sides of the sign. It can be one side if you had it up against the building. Stewart signs out of
They're actually based in Clanton, Mayor.
Clanton. I see it there at the bottom. Well, they got an office in Clanton. They're based out of Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah.
So same 4 foot high, 7 foot wide, 320 millimeter LED, 2 high, 7 wide, 3 sign command. Go under lifetime wireless data plan provided with this one. Signcommand.com cloud-based software included free with a lifetime of the product for the lifetime of the product. For both sides, that's why I had to ask Mike. For both sides, total on this one's $15,468. Double-sided sign.
Mayor, was the data in that other? Because that's pretty big.
The data in that one.
In that first one?
I didn't see it. It don't say, but I don't think the data's in there. Mike's gonna have to let me know if the data's in it.
It don't say how much it is.
It don't break it down.
It just says it has it in it.
The next quote's from Avid Signs, graphics out of Jasper. 16 millimeter LED. I'm trying to look and see if I see the data on this one. See it listed out. Total on this one, $30,479.60 for both sides of it. Mike need to call and check.
Yeah. Larry, I'm gonna ask, just table the next meeting,
Yeah.
and let's
Get a
get
little more clear
clarification.
understanding of the price difference, what the price difference is. I can understand the manufacturer versus a third party buying or whatever, but that's a pretty big difference with it, whether one's got the data included in it.
That's where it goes, apples for apples, but one of them stated about tearing this one out, was in there. But
Right.
we need a price, tore down and erected total with complete setup ready to go from each one of them.
How much was that one?
I don't know how that works, Mayor, but I know that in my stuff that I get, the equipment is not that high. It's the software that goes into it, and whether you've got a yearly subscription or, like they said, a lifetime.
Right.
Mayor, on that Stewart signs,
it does have on the top of the quote, double-sided full color LED. So that 15,400 so does include both panels. I still like to wait until the next meeting, make sure we're apples to apples. But Stewart Signs, if you want to look at one of their signs that they've done locally, the Methodist Church sign is one of their signs.
What's our sign?
I'm not sure at First Baptist what company. In the Mid-South that gave one of the quotes is who did our original sign here at City Hall.
It's all right, council, we'll let Mike do the research on this sign and take it to the next council. The next item on the agenda is the council seat vacancy. We've got a letter here from Mr. Rusty Barnes, address 1166 County Highway 27, Ewan, Alabama. It's a letter of resignation of Rusty Barnes, council place member number 1. Mayor and council invited to inform you that due to a change in my primary residence, I must resign my position as place number 1 member of the Winfield City Council effective today's date. This has come about due to my wife and I moving our residence to family-owned property which is located outside the city limits of Winfield. He says it's been an honor and privilege to serve as a citizen of Winfield for the past 13 years and enjoyed working with several administrations during my time on the council, and I wish to express my thanks to all the citizens of Winfield who have allowed me to serve them in the past. It's my hope that each of you will continue to work diligently for all our citizens and will continue to work to see that Winfield continues to grow and succeed. Thank you once again, Rusty Barnes. We need to act on accepting this resignation. Is that letter good enough? Todd?
So there's a choice.
I
said, I don't see where there's a choice.
We need to act and vote there. That seat is vacant.
Yeah, you need to
I need to ask for
make a motion in a second to declare that, accept that resignation and declare that seat vacant. Declare a vacancy in that seat.
Based on what he said, I need to ask for a motion. So I've got a motion for James, a second by Keith. All in favor? All right. Moving forward to replace that seat, you need to explain to them what we're going to do to replace that council member's seat.
It is by the Code of Alabama, it's the authority of the council to appoint to fill that seat. Y'all vote to fill that seat, and whoever y'all appoint to fill that seat serves the remainder of Rusty's term. So there are certain provisions in the law that if your appointed term is longer than a year, you have to hold a special election within a certain period of time, but council members are not that way. So when y'all appoint, whoever y'all appoint finishes out his term. And I believe calculations are correct. This is approximately a 5-year term, based on the way they changed it when the vote was, when the election is. Y'all actually serve a 5-year term, so there's still approximately 4 years left on that term. And whoever you appoint serves that full term, is my understanding. There is no requirement of a special election.
And if we do that, we have to do it at a separate meeting.
That cannot be done in the same meeting that you declare the vacancy. The law is very clear. You got to declare a vacancy, and then at the next meeting you can appoint. But it can't. The vacancy, the declaration of a vacancy, and the appointment cannot be done in the same meeting.
So we have to appoint next meeting.
Appoint at the next meeting. Yeah. And if you fail to appoint, you can't get a majority vote or whatever, you fail to appoint, then it falls to the governor to appoint. And if the governor doesn't appoint, then it falls to the probate judge to call a special election. So to avoid all that, it's council's obligation to appoint. So, and y'all got what, 60 days? I think you got 60 days to make that appointment.
We've
If you
got
don't make
60,
it-
Mayor.
If you don't make it within 60, it automatically defaults to the governor.
She's got.
She's got 30, I believe.
She's got 60, and then then it goes to probate judge.
Goes to probate judge. The probate
Judge
judge.
call election 60 days.
Yeah. So,
I believe it's the way it is.
and so your 60 days officially starting tonight. Declaration of a vacancy. So your 60 days starts.
Anybody got any other questions, comments? I'm gonna table that. I need to probably just table it next time on the agenda. We ready?
I didn't, and Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't listen well enough to the letter. Did the letter spell out that the reason for his resignation was that he moved outside the city limits and was no longer? Okay. And that needs to be in your motion. It reflected that the reason that the vacancy was declared was because the elected official moved outside of the city limits and could no longer serve. Is why the vacancy was created.
Yeah, I thought he did. All right, and the next item on the agenda is the Alabama Power Foundation Gateway Grant. I need to ask the council if they want to move forward with us accepting this grant. We don't have to say how we're going to actually use it at this time, but we need to accept it or not accept it, whether we change the sign wholly or whatever.
We've got a year,
Yeah.
we don't use it in the year it goes back.
Make a motion, accept it.
That's all in favor. All right, the next item on the agenda is resolution number 1299, the 6-time conversion. All the council member knows that we've got 60 days, 6-time. The way the state allows, in different areas allows the 6-time to roll over into I guess 30 working days or whatever, retirement, towards retirement days and retirement. Right now, we're currently, employee retires or is no longer with the city of Winfield. The sick days, sick days is nothing, means nothing to them. They don't, the sick days don't go with them for the state or in their retirement or whatever. Kind of wanted the council to look over and to think about it and read on it and see what your thoughts is, maybe converting these sick days into rollover time for retirement. Currently, I think that's the way it works with any state employee. I think that works for the state. I know it does for, I think, for the teachers and bus drivers and any kind of state worker to fall under the state guidelines or whatever, for being employed with the state. Everybody got one of these short. I don't know what's got this.
They have it.
Huh?
They have it.
When we come in, we only had 30 days of sick time, and we increased that several years back to 60 days, let them occur 60 days, because healing time, a lot of times, different injuries or different accidents, or whatever, it takes longer than 30 days to heal, and we allowed them to increase, build up to 60 days of sick time. In today's world of getting employees and trying to keep employees, a lot of times, benefits is a big factor. And we've got several people that that work just so they're not covered insurance and different things because they can't get it if they're not employed for somewhere where they have it. But I want you to look over that and see what your thoughts are on accumulated sick days, sick leave days being converted over to the employee when they time of dismissal from the city. But one thing that I want to try to encourage employees, or we always, you want to always, but right now the city has a policy, I think, in place on sick days, that they're allowed up to 3 sick days without a doctor's excuse, I think is how it is. You know, I have a problem with anybody that just takes advantage of the system and uses days or whatever, but we've had employees that are, what's happened in the past, I think we've had employees that's ready to retire, but they've got those sick days, and then they start trying to use those sick days up, taking time off because they're not allowed to roll them. Sometimes that puts a department, fire department, especially in the police department, may put them in a little bit of an employee issue as far as having enough employees on a shift, a particular shift, because of them trying to use up those days 2 or 3 at a time without having to have an excuse. I don't know if the department head, Brett, has experienced that in his department since he's been chief or not, but Alan's not here. Dwayne, I know, can speak on behalf of that. If it's allowed to be done this way, it may encourage them not to take or try to use up those days. But right now, the way your employee handbook is, they're allowed up to 3 days without a doctor's excuse. And I mean, in any given pay period, if you take an employee that's out 3 days in a pay period and then takes 3 days in the next pay period and so on, it puts a pinch on the department. And the reason I ask you to look at it this way, I think that we need to try to come up with a way of not, our department's not getting in a pinch because of somebody using up sick days because they're not allowed to roll them, or because they can go 3 days without an excuse. They can, you know, take off sick for whatever reason, up to 3 days without an excuse. So I'd like the council to kind of figure out, you know, how we can try to solve that issue. And that was just, this is just one option. I'm not saying that this is what I feel like you need to do, but I'm just saying this is a thing that can be done. We need to try to encourage employees to work their full time if they're able, you know, to work. They need to work.
Mayor, can I ask a question? In the handbook where you just said it states, you know, 3 days for your required excuse on 8-hour shift days. That's actually 1 work day for our guys. Is there anything that we can do or change in the employee handbook for that? So take Will, if he's sick one day, he's having to take the whole shift off, which is 3 days. Is there anything that we can change or amend to the employee handbook for the 24-hour shifts?
You know, we need to look at that. If we make any changes to the employee handbook, that needs to be addressed at the same time. I mean, it's the same way we use the police department. That's just something that's kind of, you know, not really been brought out to discuss. And that's why I'm, you know, I want the council to realize that we do, you know, if we depend on the department heads to take care of that department for us, you know, if they've got an employee that's a regular habitual user of time that they know that they're just using the time up, I think there needs to be a way to address it. But if it's in the employee handbook that it's allowed to do, it's hard to address it. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they have to take the whole, they have to take the
right, now
deal. So I'd like the council to make notes and study on that. Maybe let's go back when we come back, you know, the next council meeting or whatever, maybe see how what the thoughts are for us moving forward with our sick time leave. You know, which Todd remembers, I don't believe the sick time, did the sick time get involved in that comp time deal when we had that study done, or we didn't do?
I don't think so.
But anyway, that's just FYI, you know, kind of want Joe to look over and know that we've got some issues in those departments. As far as we don't ever want any of the departments to be short-handed because of whatever reason. We want would encourage employees to, use it wisely, use the time wisely. It's like I said, we increased it from 30 to 60 to allow proper healing time for a broke or injury or sickness or whatever. So, y'all kind of keep that around and study on that. Other thing, you can get if y'all don't have a copy of the employee handbook, I encourage you to get Andrew, Sandy wanted to run you off a copy where you can see how it's written up in there. We can address it at the next council meeting or so. I'm going to move on here. Somebody might want to go to the ball game. Winfield's playing Jasper tonight. Nobody else wants to support school. Mary used to have a fourth play, and she probably done enough. Next time is old business. Dr. Gina, go ahead and tell us what old business you got.
Well, I was wondering about the ordinance for the Delta weed. It was not ready the last time. Did that any further on that? The Delta weed?
It's still under the process of being worked out. I talked with an attorney from another municipality today, and we're trying to work one out. I'm sorry, we're trying to work one out. It's a little difficult, but yes, it's still under the process of being done.
I just had somebody ask me about it if we had done anything yet.
I hope to have it at the next council meeting so that it can go into place by the first of the year. We can start in January, because it's got to be published how many days, Angie, before it takes effect?
I
think it's 10 days. So hopefully we can have, if we can have it at the next meeting, then we publish it, and it basically will take effect January 1, or within a day or two of January 1.
Well, it was I would just say a surrounding city, wondering what we were doing because they were wanting to take action also.
Because I talked to the lawyer. Yeah, that's the lawyer that we're working together trying to get one. Yeah, we're working with them trying to get one together.
Okay.
Scott and I talked today, as a matter of fact. I didn't mean to put you on the spot by asking that, but we talked today. We're working together trying to get that done.
Due to a scheduling event that somebody needs to meet. We got next item is going to be the fireman hire. I got the Chief Alan Stovall or representative for him, Dwayne.
Yes.
You want to tell us what y'all got going on?
Of course, we got Mark retiring the 27th of this month, so it was recommended to hire Jeremy Vaughn in his place. Jeremy's been on volunteers with us for about a year now. He's been on with Gewin Department previously. I think he'd make a good asset to our department.
How many years experience has he got with the fire department?
With Winfield, roughly 1 year.
I'll go ahead and question. What all qualifications has he got for his fire college and different things?
You got what all classes have you?
Currently taking basic EMT.
He's taking basic EMT. He has just finished up his 160 class, firefighter 1. He does have a current CPAT test, yes.
And they go to school in March?
March.
How old? I can't see it.
Seven.
What's your age?
Can't ask him how old.
I'm just aggravated. Because I think he's going to be one of the younger ones we've got.
Yeah.
Getting that guy. I hate to see Mark leave. Mark's been with us. How long have you been with us, Mark?
Forever.
Yeah.
I'll have roughly 38 years active.
Wow. I appreciate you serving the city that long.
That's awesome.
I hate to see Mark leave, but I just aggravated about your age. Anybody got? I wanted to ask you something. Anybody got any questions for the fire department or? If not, I'm going to make a recommendation to favor? I look forward to working with you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck and keep him straight up there. Somebody needs to help him out. All right, we'll go back now to number 2. Do the ordinance on the 977 for the draft for amendment ordinance of 947 fireworks sales. We'll give you the rough draft. The council received the rough draft last council meeting. What Todd had sent us. I'll send everybody had ample time to look over that rough draft. We're open for discussion on comments and questions about what you've read and what you've seen in that draft. There's a few changes that we're going to get. Me and Todd has talked about a little bit that I think needs to be put in for his permit and the license. And
yeah,
nobody's got it. Nobody's got it. If you want to, I'll let Todd explain what we feel like needs to be changed on that draft, and then if anybody's got any other questions, comments about it, but he may cover what we've talked about, may cover what questions or comments y'all got. Going to talk with him and explain to him what we feel like we need to change in that draft.
Okay, I've met with Angie and Sandy, who issue permits, business licenses, and et cetera, and asked them to go through this because the mayor mentioned certain things that were in here, and I wanted to explain to everybody that I didn't necessarily come up with these amounts. It wasn't things that I sat down and thought about and said, hey, that's a good amount, let's put that amount in there. Like most things that attorneys do, I do very little that's novel. Why reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already been done? So a lot of times what our ordinances are is they are a blend of ordinances that I've reviewed, sample ordinances from league of municipalities, ordinances in other places. I go through and take out things that I don't think apply to Winfield because of our size or because of the businesses we have, and add things that I think are needed that may not be covered. I try to make them apply to Winfield. One of the first things that Sandy talked to me about was on page 1, section 5, the city fireworks permit, and she asked me about the permit application, and do we need to do that if they're already required to get a state fire marshal permit? And I said, in my opinion, yes, Sandy, we need to still require a permit because the state fire marshal permit is something that's issued, I believe, and it's a 2-year permit. Is that not right, Pete? About 2 years at a time?
Yeah, it's 2 years.
Okay. And the reason I say that we need to have a permit also, because if, let's just be honest, you got a state fire marshal permit, the only time you may lose your state fire marshal permit is if the state fire marshal comes up here and inspects your business and finds you got a violation. And the chances of that happening are not real great, I don't think. I mean, so I want there to be some ability for our fire chief to be able to review the permit application and make sure that they are complying with our permit application in Winfield. And if need be, revoke a permit to close somebody down or make them make certain changes before we reissue the permit. So my suggestion is that we continue to have that. But also, we have a business license, and the business license that they'll get in addition to their permit will be based on gross sales, and it graduates. It's a minimum fee, and then the more your sales are, the more your fee is, the business license fee is. So I don't necessarily think that the permit fee that we offer or that we charge in Winfield needs to be something significant, or needs to be something that's a money-making thing. It needs to be just to cover our responsibilities. If you'll see in here on page 2, the paren 4, the fee for the city fireworks permit as written shall be $1 per square foot for any structure or tent, trailer, or other temporary structure used to sell fireworks, with a minimum fee of $1,500. Now, I think that's a little much, given that they've got to get a state permit, everything, and what we're trying to accomplish with our permit. So after talking with Angie and Sandy, the suggestion I would make is that we would change paren 4 on page 2 to read, the fee for city fireworks permit shall be $150 for any structure, any tent, trailer, or other temporary structure used for the sale of fireworks. Just flat $150. And that's just basically a permit fee. And that would, my suggestion is that permit fee that permit's to be issued by the fire chief, be issued by the fire department, or be issued by Allen, and that permit fee be kept by the fire department, because they're going to be he's going to be the one that's going to be enforcing the permits and making sure that they are meeting the requirements of the permit. So that's something that the fire department or the fire chief issues, is the permit. That's my suggestion on that change. I'm open to we're open for discussion on that, but I would suggest that change be made. Pete, you got it?
Yeah, I've got an opinion.
Okay.
What I would suggest is that you take page 3, where it says standards for year-round sale of fireworks, and add that to the current ordinance, where paragraphs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's all you really need to do, because the current ordinance addresses permanent structures and temporary structures.
Yeah, it addresses that, but the current ordinance does not allow year-round sales.
No, but that is the reason we need to add this section to the current ordinance. And the next page, let me show you 2 things here. This is a bottle rocket. This is also called a bottle rocket. And the top paragraph on the next page would outlaw this bottle rocket. And we sell thousands of them.
Yeah, that was one of the suggestions I was going to make, that we took that part out, the 2-inch part of the bottle rocket.
And my question is, I don't know anything about fireworks, Pete. Don't know nothing whatsoever, except I enjoy shooting them and watching them.
You need to come spend some money.
Why would places, 2 questions for you. Why would places prohibit the sale of a bottle rocket under 2 inches?
Well,
and why would folks have such specific limitations on sparklers?
The only time that I've seen this, the only time I could find this online was when there was a fireworks ban, or when there was a fire ban. And the state generally, when you have a fire ban, the state generally prohibits any sale of any fireworks. So basically they shut us down.
But what I'm saying is, why would, a 2-inch bottle rocket would seem to be a lot less dangerous than that bigger bottle rocket? As far as, so why would we limit it?
This goes higher.
That's what I was going to say, because
you don't have to worry about it getting on the ground.
Okay.
This thing right here, most people
Pitch them up.
well, and they'll go over here and
Set the woods on fire.
set the woods on
That's
fire.
one of the-
Exactly.
And that's what I was telling him, we used to take them little ones and put them in a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun and light them and point them at people and shoot with each other.
On TV. Don't be giving them no ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. I'm sorry. Do not try this at home. But I mean, I was wondering if that was one of the reasons why some people would have a problem with the 2-inch bottle rockets, because of the way they were used by people.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the dangerousness of the product, but the way people use the product.
Right.
Okay.
But I think if you take page 3 and that section we talked about right there, if you take that section and add it to the current ordinance, you've addressed all that you need to address, except you need to make provisions for selling a year-round permit. And the other thing is, you ought to write up and look at the Dizzy Dean's new place and see what size his showroom is, because I don't know. Right now, we're limited to 400 feet. His may be in excess of 400 feet, and if so, you need to make that provision too. Because he spent a lot of money on this building up there. We're limited to 400 feet because that's the way our building is built. We're not going to rebuild it. But he may have built his building to have more than 400 feet of display area.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're telling me that everything that we're addressing in this ordinance is addressed in our seasonal sale ordinance that we've got now?
Well,
pretty much.
It's a seasonal sale. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if we simply added to that the standards for year-round sales, and I made some amendments to it where I say we can sell year-round and seasonally, we've got everything addressed as far as safety, the permits, all that, insurance requirements and everything. We're just adding the standards for a year-round sale of fireworks to that ordinance and saying you can sell them year-round.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As far as I can tell.
Okay.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Now, if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to lie to you.
Does that current ordinance have any, to your knowledge, Pete, does that current ordinance have any restrictions? For example, we've got in this one, it shall be unlawful to explode or ignite fireworks within 600 feet of the church.
Yes, it does.
That's in that one too, because I probably did that one, I just don't have it with me. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does have those restrictions in there. Age restrictions on who can be,
okay,
you know, in charge of the fireworks stand and that sort of thing is also addressed in there.
okay. But we probably need to look at the showroom size, because we may have a limit on that in our current ordinance that we need to address.
You have a limit on that in your current ordinance of 400 square feet.
Okay.
But I do not know, I haven't been in Dizzy Dean's new building, so I don't know how much room he's got in there.
Why don't you have a limit on the showroom? Long to build it on showroom.
Because they were temporary still, because it was a seasonal sale, it wasn't permanent, necessarily a permanent structure. Yeah, but see, Pete's his is a permanent location, and he was, at the time, he was limited to 400 feet, so I think we need to we need to make sure that if we want to limit the showroom size of a temporary structure, but we don't need to have any limitations on showroom size of a permanent.
Well, you can have a limit on it, it just needs to be as much as Dizzy Dean's new place is. I have no issues with him having a bigger showroom, whatever. If he has built a bigger showroom.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna allow year-round fireworks sales from a, and if you got somebody wants to come in here and build a permanent structure, I don't know that we would have a problem with having a showroom be as big as they want to build.
Well, that's what I was saying in my point, is to have it where it's no less than 400 for a permanent structure. So would you want a permanent structure less than what Pete has now, and then be unlimited on how big, but just no less than 400?
And the only other recommendation is that our current business license ordinance does not have a classification for fireworks retailer permanent location. It's not listed in the city ordinance, but we've got a NAICS code of 453998, which is retailer of fireworks permanent location. What we've currently got in our business license code is the 453047, which is a fireworks stand. So we would need to amend our business license ordinance to add that code. And what the suggestion would be is currently a stand is $250 per stand, and what we would do is on the retailer, it would be on less than $100,000, $250, or above $100,000 in sales, annual sales, it would be $250 plus 1/20 of 1%. It's like we charge on everything else, and it would gradually it goes up based on the gross annual sales. But we would have that $250 limit, or that minimum $250 to match the current fireworks stands. It would just be the same thing. It's just it would only go up based on gross annual sales.
One other suggestion on a year-round permit, you might want to charge like an extra $100 a year for that.
For a year-round permit versus a seasonal?
Yes.
Yes. I understand.
Let's talk to council, got any comments or suggestions, or I kind of agree with what Todd's got here and what Pete has, brought to light. It's kind of the same thing, just taking the same orders we got and inserting it. Anybody have any comment? I think that's what we need to do. We'll go forward with the permit, like you said, where our fire department sells that, controls that permit of that fireworks business. We need to act on that for us, that changes to that ordinance, to our existing ordinance, to put those inserts in there based on this discussion. But you want to amend the city ordinance for the licensings to change that. We need to do that at the same time, probably to change that city ordinance license for
business license.
Business license, the ordinance for the business license to include that.
Yeah, we'll need to include that, and I'll have that ready at the next council meeting, and we'll have a reading of it and then go from there. But
I'd like to take this action tonight on this ordinance, that way we can go ahead and allow the permit to be bought, and a license to be bought.
Don't have an ordinance to act.
We'll pass on that ordinance next on changing the existing ordinance. I mean, if you want to change that existing ordinance, can you not do that?
But I don't have an ordinance that we can act on because I don't have the ordinance changed. I don't have anything in writing, and I need to have an ordinance in writing.
I need to ask for a motion in a second to allow Todd to make the changes to the existing.
We can act on it next meeting.
And we'll bring it to us before the next meeting to act on it before it's passed. Have a motion, James. Second, Tim, all in favor? It's on you to, we'll act on it the next, we'll have the orders for the next meeting.
Well, I mean, as far as a business license, we currently issue business licenses through a fireworks stand. They can go ahead and buy a license, and if they I can't get a permit because we don't have a permit provision. We currently don't have, there's not a provision in our current ordinance, is there, Pete, that requires the purchase of a permit in the city, is there?
Yes.
There is in our current ordinance?
Yeah, it requires you to purchase a permit.
Well, I mean, you can go ahead, that's not it though, but this is the ring mineral ordinance. It's not, you handed me that while ago, and I was like, I don't know what.
Act 47.
Yeah, that's the
What's this permit? Application permit.
Yeah, section 12-2 says, except as provided herein, no person shall offer for sale or sell at retail any fireworks of any kind without having first applied for and received a permit from the Alabama State Fire Marshal and a permit from the city of Winfield.
We can go ahead and issue a business license, we can go ahead and issue a permit, but until we have passed this ordinance, Mayor, they can't engage in the sale of fireworks until the ordinance is passed, because technically, until we pass the ordinance, we only allow sales at a certain time. But I mean, they could go ahead, we've got a current ordinance in place that sets a permit, and so we can go ahead and issue a permit, but they just cannot engage in year-round sales until we adopt the ordinance.
But they
I don't think that's going to be an issue until after the first of the year. I really don't, because Dizzy Dean is like us. They're getting ready to open for the Christmas season, Christmas and New Year's, and once that season is over, then we want a year-round permit. You know,
so if I get this, when do we get? I mean, the next council
meeting is Christmas week.
It's the 20th.
Yeah.
Right. And if we got it adopted by then,
The 21st.
that would be.
What is
Christmas week?
What is the seasonal dates? What are they? How many days before?
Oh, it's just about a 6 or 7 day period, isn't it?
December the 20th till January the 4th, I think.
So that's going to put you, that's going to push you a day past your starting of your peak.
Most of the time, we just wore our mask and done the best we could.
My feeling is I need to wait. I feel like I need to wait. I'll leave that to the council.
Well, I mean, it's going to have to be a different check anyway. It can't be on just issue regular paper.
All right, the check does not have to be issued at a pay period. It can be issued at a separate. So if we did decide, it still could be given before Christmas. So, see, I was thinking it had to be along with the pay period. But, I mean, I knew people who stayed at home and did $700 a month while I had to work my Well, I had to work co-time.
I'll spend there, but they give me the. Anybody else got any thoughts on it? Not at this time. We'll discuss it next meeting. All right, I need to go on to the next item on the agenda is accounts payable. I need to, if anybody's not got no question about all the money that's going to be spent, I need to ask for a motion to approve the pay bills. Might as well pay them.
Yeah, I'd make a motion.
Second. All in favor? All right, I need to, before we adjourn, I need to ask the council to let me go into executive session to discuss the good name and character of an individual. I need to ask for a motion to let me do it. Motion second, all in favor? We will not take any other action when we come back in after the executive session. We'll be following y'all home maybe after that.
This is State Representative Tracy Estes, representing House District 17, which includes all of Marion and portions of Lamar and Winston counties. Please allow me to take this opportunity to wish you and your family a blessed and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I would encourage each of us at this time to stop and reflect on the blessings we've received from the good Lord over the last year. Even though we've had some difficult times coming through the COVID pandemic and inflation is on the rise, we're seeing things in this country that are naturally concerning to all of us. We need to step back as Americans and always be grateful of how blessed we are and how good the Lord continues to be to us. So in the coming days, please take a few moments to reflect on these things as we set aside some time to honor the Savior's birth and welcome in a new year in 2022.
State Bank and Trust has been invested in Winfield and Marion County for more than a century. And today, we remain deeply committed to meeting the needs of local families and businesses with excellent financial products and friendly down-home service.
But more than that, we're dedicated to supporting the growth, success, and well-being of our community as a whole. Because when it comes right down to it, there's nothing more important than community.
And just like our outstanding city officials, police, and fire departments, you can count on State Bank and Trust to help make Winfield and Marion County a great place to live for everyone who calls this area home.